Unfortunately, our Nagaland Municipal Act was adopted way back in 2001. Minor changes, amendments are all right, but the main principal act cannot be amended. After wide consultation, frame our own law and act, and then only, with the consent of every stakeholder, we will hold the urban local bodies elections.
Today we have KG Kenye from Chisami, Minister of Power and Parliament Affairs. He was the first minister, youngest minister in the year 1989 at the age of 28 years old. So, sir, thank you so much for your time today. Sir, first I would like to start with what is your priority for development as the Minister of Power and Parliament Affairs?
Thank you for having me in your show. Department of Power is very challenging just now for our state. And we are reeling under power shortage, as you can see. So we have a heavy task ahead of us. But I hope with the cooperation of the department and the support of all concerned, we'll be able to bring some changes this time.
What is your dream for the constituency?
Well, nothing so much in particular for my own constituency. The normal activities and developmental works will be undertaken. My focus as a minister of the state will be the entire state, the length and breadth of Nagaland and for its people.
Sir, getting the portfolio of Power and Parliament Affairs, how do you feel about it?
Yes, I'm excited and I am resolved to change the power scenario in the state, and we hope to improve, especially the generation. We have a lot of potentials which we have not tapped earlier. There are many hurdles at the state level, the regional and the national level. But with the new power policy, which was already in place since 2017, we will follow up whatever my predecessors have been pursuing in the past. And because of the very liberal policy of the department, we hope to attract investors from abroad also. As you have just seen, the just concluded G20 meeting itself, we could woo some companies who are interested in the renewable energy sector in our state, for which an MOU has already been signed, and we will pursue such kind of projects that can benefit our people as much as possible.
Sir, do you have any agenda for the women resource development?
Well, I am confined to my department just now, but in general, we all have our good wishes for our women folks in the state, and I'm sure the minister in charge of that department is taking up things in earnest, and we will all support that.
Sir, I heard that you were also working in NBF. So this time you did participated from the party of NTPP. So why not other party and why choose NTPP?
Yeah, we have a long story as far as my membership was in that party, the NPF. And lifelong, I grew up, I served the party in different levels, different positions. And finally, as the Secretary General for the fourth term, we ran into rough weather because of certain misconceptions to do with the last Citizens Act, Citizens Amendment Act, which became quite controversial. It's unfortunate that misunderstandings cropped up between us. So I had to tender my resignations. And that's when I parted with the party last year in the month of April. So since then, I have joined this party, the NTPP, and I feel at home. We're doing fine now.
Sir, we also like the candidate and all during the election, they make a lot of promises and forget them later. So would you say anything regarding that?
We should not. A commitment must be upheld. And to the extent possible, given the opportunity, we will try to fulfill our commitments to our electorates.
So what will be the first task for the development of the constituency? What do you think you need to do?
Yeah, unfortunately, this 17th Chizami Assembly constituency has been completely neglected. It was neglected from the radar of developments from successive governments in the state. So we have many, many things to take up to put our area at par with the rest of the constituencies in the state. So we will start with the upgradation of the SDO civil headquarters to that of the additional development commissioner. This subdivision has to be upgraded, then the rest will follow. Chizami was one of the first administrative headquarters since when the present day Nagaland state was only a district as Naga Hills under Assam state. But over the years, this growth, especially the administration, has been stagnant. Whereas all the other present day PEC district has already been upgraded to that of ADCs and the deputy commissioner. This Chizami headquarters did not grow. So recently in our first district planning board meeting, I have put that proposal forward and the district planning board has endorsed it and we will be putting it up to the government for upgradation. So let this be the beginning, and along with it, I'm sure many other more developments will follow under the able and dynamic leadership of our Chief Minister, Mr. Rio.
Comparing to other states, Nagaland is so underdeveloped, and also the unemployment rate is too high. There are a lot of educated people, but most of the educated people are unemployed. So, what will be your role in solving issues related to the development and unemployment?
It certainly is a big concern that our young and educated children are not getting employment. Statistically, we are already one of the highest in the sense of literacy among the states in India. But in terms of employment, it is also the highest state which has no employment for its people. So this is an area where the state will certainly focus and do our best. But one reason which we have identified is the absence of the private sector who have hesitated and still hesitating to come into our state because of the volatile political situation which has dogged our state ever since its inception. So this atmosphere, when it is vitiated, outsiders, the big companies, they refuse to come in when the people here and the situation is not normal or friendly. One thing we have to do as early as possible is to settle our political problem, which the governments have been trying their best in the past also. We will take it up on war footing to see that we bring an end to this imbroglio as early as possible. And the other fact which we have also identified is the lack of power. There is no industry which can be established and function vibrantly without sufficient power supply. Our state is falling short of our peak requirements for about nearly 50%, even without industries. Even for domestic consumption, we have to buy power from the neighboring states, and we are paying about nearly 500 crores every year for the bills. So if we don't have the potentials to tap, there's nothing we can do about it. But with efficient management of the payments and collection of revenues side by side, if we can start generating our own power requirements, that will suffice to help the industrial growth. So these are the two areas which are causing an impediment to the growth of employment in our state. So our young educated children are suffering because of this. Everyone must put their heads together to solve this problem as early as possible.
Would you like to say anything about the roadmap for the next 5 years?
That will be worked out collectively. But my party, the NTPP, has already brought out a manifesto, which is available to all prior to this last general election. We will mostly go by that, and that throws a lot of light on different aspects and areas which need to be prioritized by our government. We will.
Sir, so why was the ULB election cancelled, and would you like to say anything about the Nagaland Municipal Act?
Certainly. We are confronted with this issue the moment we took over the government. Unfortunately, our Nagaland Municipal Act was adopted way back in 2001. And we don't mean to ridicule the then ministry or the House at that time, honorable members, and the government as a whole. We are simple people, Nagas, and very easygoing in anything and everything. So I think we have overlooked certain facts which were a part of the 74th Amendment, as you will know. Article 243, A to Z, whatever, which came along with the adoption of our Nagaland Municipal Act. You see, Parliament Acts of India, whenever it is adopted, enacted by the Parliament, no state or union territory in the country have any say over it to obstruct or reject. They have to accept it. It is automatically imposed in all the state and union territories in the country. One thing good about our constitutional standing and provisions under 371A, that is to do with our state, they have given us the liberty in the 4 areas where the Assembly, the Nagaland State Assembly, has got the choice to accept or reject any Parliament acts which infringes on certain guarantees that the Constitution has made for us. So it is up to us to study, and if it does not infringe upon our constitutional rights, such as the customary practices, the social and religious practices, and land ownership and its resources. These are certain aspects where the Parliament cannot force us to accept any act of Parliament. So it is up to us whether to exercise those powers or not. And when the urban local bodies were constituted in other parts of the country, and they were doing well, getting a lot of funds from the center. Our state did not have municipalities at that time. So, with all good intent to bring more funds to develop our towns and our cities, town councils, maybe the government at that time thought that we also have to accept and make certain enactments to constitute municipalities so that we also start getting the funds to develop our state. So hurriedly, they must have made a resolution adopting this Nagaland Municipal Act, which also endorses, as the principal act, which also endorses the 74th Amendment and Article 243A to Z. And this brought a lot of rules and regulations which were infringing on our rights as guaranteed in the Constitution in reference to the Article 371A. So without realizing this fact, successive governments have been trying to make amendments to this act, Nagaland Municipal Act. So minor changes, amendments are all right. But the main principal act cannot be amended. Any act of parliament cannot be altered by the state legislatures, because the state legislatures are not competent to amend the principal acts of the parliament. So we have had difficulties over the years, ever since 2001. Several amendments were made by several governments in the past, but it could not satisfy. We could not reach that level where we got rid of infringement and encroachment by this act into our 371A. So that difficulty, that problem kept on existing until recently, when again the Supreme Court had asked our state government to conduct the urban local bodies. So they have a right, in a way, because the judiciary comes in and starts questioning the state. Nobody forced you to enact the Nagaland Municipal Act, or voluntarily you have adopted and endorsed whatever acts are there relevant to the ULBs back in 2001. But after more than 20 years, you have still not constituted your urban local bodies. So you do it now. That's how the court came in. And we had to, because that act existed. It's a sign, a commitment that we will do it. So this time around, the State Election Commission had to notify for the conduct of the urban local bodies. And that was the first major issue that confronted our government. So we had a series of cabinet meetings and consultations among the 60 members of the assembly. And finally, we could identify that as long as this act remains, which have already endorsed all the other acts of the parliament, we will continue to face this controversy between the state, the assembly trying to enact the rules and regulations, and the stiff opposition met by our civil societies, tribal bodies, etc. So the act not being able to be segregated. We can't pick and choose what we like and leave the others. It has to be accepted in toto or rejected in toto. So finally, we arrived at the decision that it is best that this act be repealed, and we will frame our own rules and regulations again in line with the Area Council and Village Councils Act of 1978, where the rural local bodies like the village councils, the VDBs, and the then Area Councils Act were all a product of our own state government, our people. So if under the same ministry and the same constitution, if one ministry like the rural development could permit us, allow us to frame our own rules, then why not in the urban local bodies? Because urban and rural, they are all a part of this state. They compose of the same people. So finally, we thought it is best that we exercise our constitutional rights and repeal the act, and we will, after wide consultation, frame our own law and act. And then only, with the consent of every stakeholder, we will hold the urban local bodies elections. That's where we are.
Thank you so much, sir.
Nagaland TV, Sob Manulaga Awas. Watch us live on Geo TV and on your television sets as well. For Dimapu viewers, we are on channel number 994 in Global Chapter, and Kohima and Mokokchung viewers, switch to channel number 138 on Hornbill Digital. For all news and updates, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter.